Hello everyone, welcome back to It's Crochet O'Clock. Today's video, or this video rather, is going to show you how to work the border for Amy's Embrace. This is the border. I have not blocked my shawl yet, so it still looks kind of out of place. I'm kind of stretching it for you so you can see, but this is the border for it. It's very simple to do, and I'm sure that a lot of you are going to catch on to it very quickly. The only thing that you really need to know is that the point of the shawl down at the bottom, at the beginning of that, we are working in the point. There will be another one of these down at the point, so that's something for you to keep in mind while you're working this. The other thing that you need to remember is that before and after puffs, it's always a chain 2. Okay, I know that it won't make sense right now, but it's always a chain 2 before and after the puffs. All of the other ones are chain 3s through here, and that's important because if you don't do that, then you're going to end up with extra sag in your lace work here, and you don't want that. You do not want that. And of course, as always, loosey-goosey with these puff stitches. Okay, we're making puff stitches, we're not making puff pebbles rather. So just remember, loosey-goosey on these. Okay, let's go ahead and get right into this video, and let me show you how to do the border on Amy's Embrace. To begin the border, you're going to want to begin in this chain space in the top western side of the shawl. So if this is the top of your shawl, obviously it's too big for me to put here in the center. The top of the shawl is completely flat. We're going for this very top corner here. Make sure it is right side up, and we are going to go into this chain space here in the corner, and we're going to place a standing double crochet. So there is our standing double crochet. Now we are going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to place a double crochet in between puff 2 and puff 3. So we're going to skip 2 puffs, place a double crochet there. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. We're going to skip these 2 stitches, place a double crochet in this chain space. 1, 2, 3 chains, skip over this stitch, double crochet in this chain space, chain 3 again, 1, 2, and 3, double crochet in this chain space. We're setting up some framework here. Chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Skip that space, or this double crochet, and double crochet in that chain space. Chain 3, 1, whoop, without losing your hook, don't do that, 2 and 3, double crochet. Now we're coming to the end of this half motif. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip these 2 puffs and place a double crochet in between the second and the third puff. Okay, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Now you're going to place a double crochet in that last chain space. Okay, so this is technically after we chain 1, 2, and 3. That is your repeat. Okay, going down the entire way, all the way around, that is your repeat. You just have to remember that your first double crochet goes in a corner of the motif. Your last double crochet goes in the corner of the motif. You're just going to chain 3 and place double crochets, okay? It's not hard at all. The only sticky wicky that you may have is, don't forget, even though these double crochets are very close to each other, your next double crochet that begins your repeat over again is going to go in that next chain space that's right there, right next to it. It looks a little awkward right now, but I promise you it's going to work out. The only other sticky wicky that you may run into is when you get down to the point. At that point, there is only one chain space, and in that point, you are going to double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, and then work your way back up to the opposite side, which would be the top eastern corner of your shawl, and your last stitch will be a double crochet. Then we're going to turn our work and we will move on to row 2, and I will meet you there. I have already flipped my work for row 2, and how we are going to start this is we are going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. That counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. Okay, now we're going to begin the repeating part. In this chain space right here, we're going to place 4 puff stitches. 1, 2, 3. There's 2. There's 3. And there is 4. Now, this is the exact opposite of how we worked with our motifs. With our motifs, we started off small and then we got to larger portions of puff stitches. This way, we are doing the opposite. So just like with the motifs, we are going to chain 2 after and before we go into puffs. So here is the chain 2. And then we are going to skip this stitch right here, and we are going to double crochet. Now we go back to chain 3s, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to work our way all the way over to our next puff. And I turned this and I didn't straighten it out. I apologize. There we go. All right, this is better. So double crochet in the next chain space. And chain 3, and then double crochet, chain 3, double crochet in the next chain space, one, 2, 3. I apologize if you can hear my neighbor's dog. Double crochet in the next chain space, and then double crochet in this chain space right above those 4 puffs. See it? Double crocheting right there. Now in between where this join is, this chain space right here, we're going to place 4 puff stitches there. So because we're going to be placing 4 puff stitches there, we need to chain 2 before. This is the only time that we're doing chain 2s instead of chain 3s here. And then 4 puffs here. There's one. There's two. There's three. And there is four. So that is actually our repeat. This set of 4 puffs is the same as our starting set of 4 puffs. Okay, before the groupings of puffs, you chain 2, after you chain 2, and then you begin your double crochets. Chain 3, double crochet, chain 3, double crochet. You just have to remember that in between where the motifs meet, we are going to be placing 4 puff stitches right there. In your point down at the end, there is 1 chain space. If you look at it, you're going to place 4 puffs there. Still a chain 2 on either side of it, and just work your way all the way back around. Now I know that we only placed 6. Is it 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so there's 7 double crochets there. You're going to have one more. You're going to have one more extra window, one more repeat of the chain 3 double crochet over here versus on your half motifs. So when you're coming back around the other side to the end, don't forget that you're not going crazy, because you're going to get used to counting your double crochets and chain 3s. There is one more in the full motif, okay? Your very last stitch, do not forget that you have to chain 2 after your very last round of puffs, and then double crochet back into that same chain space. Don't forget about that, because if you do, then you're going to have issues starting off with row 3. So go ahead with this repeat. It's really, really, really easy. I will meet you guys back for row 3. I have already turned my work, so I am ready to begin row 3. We are going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. That counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. We're going to skip this first puff here, and in between these puffs we're going to place a puff. There's our first puff. We're going to skip the next puff, and in between those 2 puffs we're going to place another puff. One more time, we're going to skip this next puff. In between those 2 puffs, another puff stitch. So now we're going to chain 2 because we're at the end of our puffs. Then we're going to skip this puff, place a double crochet in the chain space right there. Now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Skip this double crochet, place a double crochet in the chain space, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Skip that stitch, that double crochet, place a double crochet. You guys should be familiar with this drill by now. Chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Skip that stitch, double crochet in the chain space, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Skip a stitch, double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip a stitch, double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, skip a stitch, double crochet in the chain space. Oh, without losing your hook. Come here. One more chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip that last double crochet, double crochet in that chain 2 space. Now we're here at puffs again. We're going to work it the same way we did the starting one. There's 4 puffs here. We're going to place puff stitches in between all of them. We're going to skip this first one after we chain 2. Don't forget to chain 2. We're always chaining 2 before puffs and after puffs. So let's work our first puff in between these puffs. There we are. Let's go in between the next puffs. And one last one. There you go. So now remember, after puffs and before puffs, it's always a chain 2. So you'll skip this last puff and double crochet, and then you will start the marathon again of chain 3s and double crochets all the way to down here, your last double crochet, and then you'll chain 2, do your 3 puffs, chain 2, double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, all the way around. When you get to the end, don't forget that it's important to chain 1 and then place a double crochet in the chain space from the last stitch. Okay, don't forget that. Or sorry, it's not the last stitch, it's actually a standing double crochet, I believe, is the beginning point. No, it's a chain. Ignore me. Don't ignore me, really. So you have your chain, and it's meant to be a double crochet and a chain 1. So your last double crochet will be in the chain 2 space on the opposite side. Then you'll turn your work, and we will meet back for row 3. 4. We will meet back for row 4, I promise. I have already turned my work to begin row 4, and to start we are going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. That counts as a double crochet and a single or chain 1. So sorry. We are going to skip this first stitch. This is kind of like a repeat, except for we have only 2 puff stitches instead of 3. We're going to work in between these puff stitches. I'm going to place a puff right there. There is the first one. We're going to skip over this puff, and in between those puffs, place another puff. Now we're going to chain 2 because we're after puffs. Remember, we're always chaining 2 before and after puffs. Double crochet in that chain space like so, chain 3, and into the chain space. You guys should know the drill by now. It gets larger with one repeat each row. I'm going to work through this with you, but it's the same. Chain 3, double crochet, in each chain space. Almost there. Oop. And there is the last double crochet. Now we just need to chain 2 because we are here at the puffs again. And we're going to work in between the puff stitches. 2 puff stitches, 1 in between right there. And there's 1. Now let's do our last one. And then because we are after puffs, chain 2 and then double crochet. It's the same all the way around. Rinse, lather, and repeat. That is what row 4 looks like. You're going to work yourself all the way back around. When you get to the opposite side, don't forget that after your last puff, you're going to chain 1 and then you're going to double crochet into the second chain of the chain 3. Okay, and then we will be ready for the very last row of Amy's Embrace, row 5, and I will meet you there. I have already turned my work and I am ready to go with the very last row for Amy's Embrace. How exciting is that? There's only a couple more steps left after this, and then your shawl will be completely ready to go. To begin row 5, we're going to chain 3, as we've done previously. That counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. We're going to skip over this stitch and place a puff in between these 2 stitches. Now we're going to chain 2, as we always do after and before puffs. And we're going to place a double crochet in that first chain space. You're going to skip over this puff. And now you're going to start your marathon of chain 3 double crochets. There's a lot of them in this round. I'm so sorry. So chain, well, I'm not sorry because it's beautiful. Chain 3, skip that stitch, double crochet in the chain space. You guys should be well familiar with this. We're going to do this all the way around. You just got to remember that there's a chain 2 before the puffs and after the puffs. All the rest of them are chain 3s. It's very important that you remember that, because if you don't, then you're going to end up that you wouldn't think that that chain 3 would make a difference, but it actually does. You're going to end up with some saggy lattice work or lace work, and you don't want that. That's not what you want. So you absolutely have to make sure that you are chaining 2 before and after the puffs. So we're just working our way over to the next area and I knotted up my yarn. Look at that. So in case you guys ever wonder if you are the only one that has this happen, no, you are not. This is what happens when you try to prepare and take a whole bunch of yarn out at once so you won't have to pull from the ball. Almost. Well, maybe not. Maybe. The things I get myself into. All right. Moving right along. Nothing to panic about here. We're fine. This is all fine. Almost. Here we go. Now we are right before the puffs. So, just had a little talk about this. Chain 2, skip that puff, in between the puffs, from row 4, puff stitch. Now we're going to chain 2 because we're after a puff, and then double crochet in that first chain space. Now you begin the marathon of chain 3 double crochets until you get back to the puffs. Work your way all the way back around. Don't forget that our first stitch here was a chain 3, and that counted as a double crochet and a chain 1. So whenever you get to the end of here, don't forget to chain 1 and then double crochet into the second chain from your beginning chain 3 of row 4. Okay, that's important, because if you don't do it, then you're not going to get a straight line going across. It'll end up curling up, and you don't want that. This is what your finished border should look like. 5 rows. It's so lovely. I love it oh so much. So now if you are using the Eco-Lush or another natural fiber, you are definitely going to have to block this, because it will not get its shape until you do. It looks lovely right now, but I promise you it looks so much better whenever it's blocked. And if you need help with blocking and you're not quite certain how to block something, I have a video that will be in this playlist for this shawl that will show you how I block shawls. Now there are many different ways to block, but this is just how I prefer to block shawls, so make sure that you are checking that out if you need a little bit of help with that. And if you're also going to do the optional fringe, I also have a video in this playlist about how I do fringe, which there's also many different ways to do fringe, but it's just the way that I happen to do fringe. So you can either just go with just this plain border and you are finished aside from blocking, or you can add fringe, and I'm going to show you 2 different ways that I did fringe for this shawl in the next video. So thanks for hanging out with me. If this is the end of your journey, thank you so much for taking this journey with me. If it's not and you're going to continue, I will see you in the next video. Please make sure that if you have not already done so, that you like this video, all of my other ones as well, of course, and that you subscribe so you don't miss any of my other videos.